Welcome back, everyone, to the Hearthstone Global Games. Netherlands and Italy went right down to the wire, but it was Netherlands in the end taking that one 3-2. And now we move on to the match of the day, as it were. A lot of us, I say a lot of us, all four of us, have been saying how excited we were for this game. It's Ukraine versus Czech Republic. And Lorinda, why is this such an exciting game?
Because they are wonderful countries. It's also a rematch of last year's finals, which Czech Republic took down to win the entire championships. That's kind of how finals work, I guess, and get a chance to see two teams, slightly revamped, of course, but should be pretty as much as exciting as that finals was.
The fact that they're both 3-0 is incredible, but one of them will have to go 3-1, the other one can go 4-0. Let's have a look at the rosters of both of these sides and see some of the powerhouses that are in these teams. Ukraine, Kalento, Insane, Naria, and Old Boy. I mean, I have them as one of my caster picks. I was surprised when we were picking that they hadn't been picked already, and I think I'm quite lucky to have stolen them away from everyone else.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, they are 3-0, so I don't know if it's luck or skill. I mean, if it's a draft and you get to pick them and you pick them, I'll give you a bit of a credit for that one, but don't get used to it, sunshine.
On the other side, though, Czech Republic, reigning champions. As Lorinda said, there has been a little bit of a change. However, still that core of the team survives. And, you know, you got to feel confident if you are the reigning champions defending your title. You're always going to hope you can go back-to-back titles.
Yeah, I'd like to talk a little bit about Faley because he's been doing so well this year. He's had top 8 in the Wild Championship and at HCT EU, and also top 4 DreamHack Summer, runner-up at Oslo, top 16 at Italy, and one of the top 16 as well. So he's having rather a good year, and it's been a breakout year for a player we've known for a long time is pretty good at this game. Well, he's starting to maybe rack it up beyond pretty good into the really good stakes.
And I think that's always an incredible experience for a player when they do kind of get into that year. They have that big year, right? A lot of players do get that chance where they just explode and suddenly they're getting tournament and tournament and they're able to achieve lots of things, and this is clearly his year. Of course, every team brings 9 classes, but they then have to ban some of those classes away. So let's see what was taken away from both sides. First of all, Druid and Rogue disappearing on the side of Czech and Ukraine.
Oh, that's not Warrior, is it?
It's not Warrior. We'll hope there's not going to be another Warrior mirror. I'm sure the rest of Twitch chat will agree with us. Although it was a well-fought game in the end, and it is always interesting seeing those games get right down to the wire, and it can just come down to a mech being discovered.
Now, something I don't want to talk about too much, but I think we should address at least a little bit. No Stan Sivka, and it's a new meta. Do you think that makes a difference for the Czech Republic?
Well, when we interviewed them, they said no. They don't think it will make a difference. They said that they're not even going to call on Stan Sivka to help them out. They feel like they're strong enough without him. But my personal feeling is Stan Sivka does bring a lot to the team. I mean, he is a fantastic player, but he's also very good at deck building. So I guess we'll see. We'll see what happens in this meta. But let's see how the pick order worked out for both of these sides and what they're going to be playing. Starting off with Hunter versus Paladin. Faley and Old Boy are going to be piloting those. That is Death Rattle Hunter versus Odd Paladin. So slightly favoured on the side of Ukraine, it would seem, but no Warrior matches there. Looks like we're okay. Maybe it's just a Darrock and Falcone thing. They just bring these long, grueling matches, and we get the nice, fast-paced action.
As it should be.
Yeah.
We are the fast-paced action people.
Are we?
We are now.
Yeah, you've never been described as fast-paced in your entire life, don't you?
You don't know my entire life. It was a very long time ago
yeah,
when parts of that happened.
Definitely. We need to get out some dusty books if we were to read about the life of Lorinda. Match number 1 is going to be Paladin versus Hunter, though. I mean, I'm leaning towards Odd Paladin against Death Rattle Hunter. How are you feeling?
Yeah, the same. It can just get it done quickly enough. 5/5s are good and all that, and everybody likes them, but they don't have taunt, so you can just ignore them if you're going to kill your opponent. Don't get me wrong, you can't ignore them if they're slapping you about and you're just taking a load of damage, but in general, if it's going quick enough for you, you can get it done. Things like Candle Shot are going to be essential for Czech Republic to even, I can't say control the early board, but at least stop it from getting out of complete craziness.
Craziness is you can see the whole Czech Republic team there were all together as well. It is nice when some of these countries do all jam together in the same house. I'm sure it does help communication-wise. I think in an interview we did ask a team whether it helped, and they were like, nah, not really.
That was USA,
right? But that's definite USA.
That's just muzzy memeing.
That's a USA thing to say, isn't it? Just to deny any sort of advantage. But I'd say it would help all being in the same room. On the other side, for Ukraine, you could see it was just Old Boy on his own, so they'll be communicating over various tournaments levels of communication, I'm sure. I'm sure there's plenty of cool things the kids can communicate with nowadays.
I imagine so. Telephone, maybe.
Telephones are good. That's a perfect way. Fax is also there. If you want typewriters, I'm sure you could post a letter via pigeon. That's getting back in your days, isn't it? No?
I'm not even going to give you an answer to that.
Because you know I'm right.
Of course, the pigeons suck.
There is
right
the
now.
series layout for you guys. You can see what matches are going to be taking place, but one of those classes is just going to be taken away one by one as we try and get one of these teams to 3 wins, because that is the magic number. That's how you win this series, is by getting 3 wins in total. As we jump into game number 1 now, I believe, as we said, Paladin versus Hunter, and well, that's a pretty good hand for the Death Rattle Hunter.
Yep, can't say much about that other than what you just did say.
Oh my goodness.
Paladin, one of the decks, or one of the classes with the least variety, I'd say, this time around. We're just seeing odd Paladin after odd Paladin. 2 Blood Knights is actually pretty standard this week, and nothing really doing. I thought we might see some of Muzzy's crazy Paladin, but we've seen very little of that as well.
Yeah, I just think in this format, you bring the best deck available for that class, and I feel like Odd Paladin is the best deck available for this class.
Yeah.
No, don't you wince at me.
I'm
It
wincing. I mean,
It is.
you've got
Okay,
to take a...
Give
not
me a
only
reason why.
the
But how
best-
many... Are we going to... Every single time, Neil. Give me a reason why.
I think it's the best deck. But I think Muzzy's version may match up better with more decks than this does.
Okay,
this is
that's
probably
fair.
better for ladder, but I think Muzzy's version may well... There's quite a lot of control out there, and it looked pretty good in those control matchups at Copa, so...
However,
I'd
there
like
is
to
a
see it
Mekaroo.
tried.
There's a Mekaroo available. That's
Good.
different.
It's kind of different. Odd Paladin. Okay, so what needs to be said here is the Paladin is trying to kill the Hunter really quickly. That's it. And the Hunter is trying not to die whilst establishing a counter-attack with lots of 5/5s. And that really is all that needs to be said. So with that in mind, let's see how they approach it.
I've got to say, I am interested by the Czech Republic mulligan. They clearly feel like Devilsaur Egg into 2 Terror Scales is not quick enough.
Yep.
And I guess the scary factor is if your opponent kills off the Devilsaur Egg and just puts that 5/5 on the board, suddenly those Terror Scales are just useless. So you can understand why they've mulliganed that away, because it very much can be in the game plan to remove a 0/3 off the board and gifting a 5/5, because the Paladin just goes so wide, you can ignore a 5/5 once it's on the board.
Yeah, later game, if they can get themselves down a Witchwood Grizzly or something fetched from somewhere, then they're probably in an okay spot to stodge it up and end it all. But it will take a while if it gets to that point. That's probably how they just stop the game from happening. Because if you don't have that counter-attack, like, you don't have the secrets in this deck, so you don't have the Spellstone. That's one way you can counter-attack with Paladin. The egg's just that little bit slower.
Sometimes too slow. Howlmaster Shaw, not as slow though. Certainly if you can get him to stick, then that can make things very tricky for the Paladin.
And even if he doesn't stick, you're putting a lot of resources into getting rid of a 3/6 on turn 4 as the Paladin. So that's a big deal.
You always have to be well aware, I think, as the Paladin in this matchup is of that turn 6, is of that possibility of Rexar, because it is a fantastic board clear as well as just an incredible Death Knight with an amazing hero power. You want to make sure they can't clear off your board comfortably.
Yeah, and you don't need this hero power to win your game as the Hunter this time around. Sometimes it's very touch and go as to whether you really want to lose your 2 per turn, but you don't care against Paladin. The whole thing is just run them out of stuff, stop them from killing you, and then you will be fine. Talking of being fine, Ukraine's hand is pretty fine right now.
Yeah, I mean, but it's not incredible. It's there, it's got some good early game, but I'd like to see it pack a little bit more of a punch.
I mean, it's got double raid leaders. And they've
I mean, I never thought I'd hear the day where double raid leader is a good hand.
So Mekaroo, Coin, make some doofuses. Raid leader, for instance.
I mean, yeah.
There's a lot of damage in the next 3 turns.
It is great, but it just surprises me.
Oh, yeah, I mean, raid leader.
Yeah, exactly. Blood Knight and raid leader both in the same deck. Who'd have thought?
You play this against the Innkeeper, and he wins. It's like, what's going on here?
The Innkeeper always beats me. Are we supposed to beat him?
Occasionally.
Oh, okay.
It takes a while, but when you're an advanced player, they let you talk in Twitch chat.
That's why I'm always muted.
Exactly.
So this Devilsaur Egg is just a little bit slow. And now the fact that they aren't running the Terrascale Stalkers as well means that they don't have the activation on that egg. But old boy may still be concerned about it. he may still want to kill it off if it were to be played. But Czech Republic are going to take things a little bit slower, or maybe even faster, I guess, with the Spider Bomb. It is much more aggressive.
Do you want to use the raid leader and take your chance, or do you want to use the maul and not lose anything of importance, then just lob out a Firefly?
I like lobbing things, and I'd say that the maul is probably a good idea. Being less, taking less of a risk, I'd say. Raid leader just seems like it's more punishable.
Did you like Bomb Lobber?
I did. Yes, great card.
It was a good card. 5-drops seem to be good when they're mechs. Or when they make mechs.
Where is your bomb lobber now? I think a famous Hearthstone player once said.
Did they?
And by famous, Amas once said that, yes.
Okay.
Have you never seen that clip?
No. I probably have, but I see so much Hearthstone that, you know, there's only various amounts of spaces for me to write it down in.
It's an arena clip, so that it's your olden days when you used to like arena.
I still like arena, I just don't get a chance to play it as often now. Yeah, that looks like an okay play.
How many times do I go face, says old boy.
I reckon about 4.
Yep.
And this whole board now is absolutely nutty. There's still space for a raid leader next turn. Meanwhile, talking of where's your egg now?
Well, there's space for a raid leader unless this hits the Mecharoo. And then suddenly there's not. Well, there we go.
But they play nothing. But yeah, you're right. If that hit the Mecharoo, then maybe that would have been awkward. Handmaster, sure.
Yeah, you put it on the board, but raid leader is going to make short work of it.
If they want to. I mean, it's a lot of damage if they just want to punch face and say, okay, Shaw kills one off next turn. Whatever you play kills another. Do we actually care? But you do care because it's a raid leader that's going to get killed. So you probably care a bit.
I think the fact that it's only 2 minions plus your face is worth setting them into Shaw.
But one of the minions you lose is your raid leader, which takes 6 damage off the board.
No, I mean, I'm saying get rid of Shaw.
Oh, yeah.
I
think so too.
Minions,
I think
two
so
minions
too.
in your face right now, and then you've still got the raid leader. It's probably going to get flanking striked, I imagine, by Czech Republic, but then you just got raid leader number 2.
Yeah. And do you even put the 3rd minion into the thing? You should put your face in, right?
Face, yeah.
And this is just gruesome things. And actually, I think somebody's just gone, halt, do we even need to put anything? But yeah, you need to kill Shaw if you're going to, and they're just not going to be able to kill anything next turn, and that's going to be... I don't want to call it the game because the flanking strike slows it down, but it's going to be hard to get back from here. Like you say, Rexar might be the only hope.
And that's the thing, raid leader next turn is going to provide, what, 10 damage?
Yeah, casual
Not
12.
more. Depends how much they can actually clear. Gluttonous Ooze not going to help out, so it's just going to be that flanking strike. And this is the thing, if they hadn't have traded, then suddenly the flanking strike had the charge, the rush
it just
as
gets
well.
messy.
But this is the matchup you really don't want to get as the Hunter. You don't want Odd Paladin. It just batters through you.
Plus, Divine Shield.
Do it for the memes. Divine Shield and then just Blood Knight next turn. I mean, you've got Raid Leader, which I think makes sense to push the damage now.
Well, what's the punish? The punish is Giggling Inventor off the top.
What, as in if you don't Raid Leader now?
Yeah.
So then, if you're worried about Giggling, then you play Raid Leader now, and you've got Blood Knight to follow up. And then you just win.
You're also worried about Rexar giving everything Divine Shield.
Okay,
Stops
that's
you from losing.
definitely worth a
Because
consideration.
you can still play the Raid Leader the next turn.
Yep. Completely agree. Rexar is something they should most definitely be playing around.
And this to me says they're going to attack in here, use the hero power, play them all, and just kill off the 3/3 and have a whole army of stuff on the board.
Canada and Slovakia 2-2 currently, going into game number 5.
Both on the brink of elimination. Interesting to see who comes out of that one. Canada, one of the bigger names in this tournament.
Certainly not a place you want to be in. Game number 5, one of you getting eliminated. That's pretty scary. Are you alright?
No,
Why aren't you alright?
because they haven't got lethal next turn if nothing dies.
Well, because their board is full.
Yeah. I mean, it's not ridiculous. I just wonder if they could probably have left a slot there. I don't know how they kill this board over 2 turns either.
Well, this is the
But
thing.
Witchwood Grizzly from somewhere, like...
Well,
Yeah.
the only way... Yeah, but if they play Witchwood Grizzly, then you trade in... Oh, no, you still can't.
Right, exactly. You Divine Shielded everything. Maybe it was worth leaving a couple of them not shielded, for instance.
I'd say definitely it was worth leaving a slot.
I mean, not that it will probably make much difference.
I think that's usually greed coming into the equation. You're like, well, we can give another minion Divine Shield. Why wouldn't we? And then you realise.
Yeah, it's only Grizzlies from Fetch that isn't happening anytime soon.
But I think Czech Republic will recognise this, and they're probably not going to put anything on the board. That's... Well, I mean, I guess they have to. They have to try something.
Try and fight back with lethal next turn somehow.
Well, Blessing might change his things.
All right, there is lethal next turn.
That's the easy way there.
Game.
Yeah, well done. Play perfectly, get rewarded.
Thanks, game.
But the odd Paladin, I mean, just showing its sheer dominance. And unfortunately for Czech Republic, they are going to fall there. Death Rattle Hunter just not doing the job. Sometimes it's nice to see, because Death Rattle Hunter is so popular on ladder and it does do a lot of damage right now. But Old Boy is able to get the victory.
You know what I would do now if my Paladin had, or my opponents just Paladin me to death?
What?
Paladin them back.
Is that a possibility?
It is indeed a possibility. It's going to be Paladin versus what I believe is Face Mage, which is a pretty grim matchup historically for the Mage. They do have a few new shiny tools.
Yeah, you say historically because there are abilities now for the Mage to clear the board, and even before so, like Cinderstorm and Arcane Missiles, if it hit a couple of 1/1s, you had that chance to keep board control, right?
Yeah, to some extent. And you do have slightly better minions now. You have Shooting Star, which is really good against Paladin, but I think the Paladin still has a decent match here.
It should do. I mean, the Paladin has a decent match against most things, but you do struggle against board control. Let's have a look at the matchup then, just so you can see for yourself what is going to be played. Afterwards, we'll have Mage versus Hunter. So teams just going back and forth
That's
of which classes
Mage,
they're played.
That's the old
yeah.
Jaina, Control-y, big spell Mage.
I mean, just looking at Czech Republic's lineup in general, Death Rattle Hunter, Control Mage, Quest Rogue, a lot of control-heavy decks in there, clearly expecting a certain type of meta in the Hearthstone global games. And I've got to say, across the board, relatively similar decks from the majority of teams. There have been a few curveballs. I think there was maybe one topsy-turvy priest.
There was some. I know Falk was very excited.
Got very excited because apparently he can now do the combo on mobile phone, which is
especially when he's got video editing on his side. No, he actually did do it.
No, he did do it.
Annoyingly.
But it's now Naria's turn, and he's gonna... And it's funny that we talk about Topsy-Turvy Priest, because...
Let's not ever go... Why would you talk about Naria and Topsy-Turvy Priest together, Dan?
Well, the last time I faced Naria on ladder, I won, Neil.
And...
Humble brag.
Then he brought it to a tournament.
And then he did bring it to a tournament, and it wasn't so great. That was, what, HCT Germany?
It
Naria was brave enough to bring Topsy-Turvy Priest, and unfortunately didn't go too well. But now he's on something a little bit more comfortable, I'd say, with the Aggro Mage. It's similar to how you would pilot it before. I guess the only difference maybe is trying to consider spell damage and how that's going to influence your game.
Yeah, and they haven't gone for the full spell damage version either, I say, just double checking. No, they haven't gone for the all-in version on spell damage. In fact, very little at all that I can see there. Very much more a normal version, just the cosmic anomalies doing their thing. But the main addition to this deck has been Shooting Star and Stargazer Luna. Luna, incredibly powerful card in this deck.
Oh,
we saw one get left up recently, and the next turn was just absolutely ridiculous. That was at Copa.
I mean, if you can combine that with a Sorcerer's Apprentice, sometimes it can get real ugly real fast.
It really can, especially you get Primordial Glyphs into...
I had some fun the other day. I got Stargazer Luna in my Good Shaman, and then I was able to upgrade using Unstable Evolution, and then the second time you upgrade it, it puts Unstable Evolution to the right side of your hand, so it was drawing cards whilst evolving.
That sounds absolutely disgusting.
Yeah, it was pretty fun, not gonna lie. But it is now the turn for Czech Republic to try and beat down their opposition with the Aggro Paladin, the odd Paladin, but this was a little bit different, Neil. We have that mech package just sneaking its way in there. We can see War Gear and the Glowtrons both available for Czech Republic.
Yeah, it's not a full-on crazy deck. It is basically odd Paladin, but like you say, a little bit different, a few more mechs. War Gear provides just a little bit of burst potential that Paladin sadly lacks a lot of the time.
with just a little bit of an extra oomph, I would say.
Yes.
I mean, somewhat similar to a Doomguard if you are lucky enough to have the board in your favour.
I mean, Glowtron is just pretty much straight up better than Diamol, so you might as well play some synergy, so they're playing one war gear.
I think
Why
that's
not?
fine. Yeah, and along with the Giggling Inventors as well, like it works out quite nicely. I always thought Wargear was going to find its way into more decks. I know that at the start of the expansion there was a lot of Wargears floating around, and then people have kind of decided that, nah, it's not really good enough. But Czech Republic disagree.
Yeah, I think it's a card that will float in and out of the meta, again, depending on how many answers to it, because people just neglected it after the first 3 or 4 days, and that's allowed it to sneak its way back in. I think it will sneak back from time to time.
What do you prefer here? Do you prefer getting some magnetic synergy, having a 2/6 on the board?
I think as Canada survive, I think that the main thing to do here was, especially against the old version in particular, you just keep pressing the button whenever the button is like available. Because the Mage just eventually has to start trading. It can't get the face damage in it needs from its minions, and then you end up winning. But with the new version of Mage, they do have a little bit more board presence, but not a huge amount in this version.
To reiterate, that was Canada winning, which means Slovakia out of the Hearthstone Global Games, unfortunately.
It's a shame. Put up a pretty decent fight, I think, in a couple of their matches this time around. Shooting Star, but without all the spell damage available, it's not anywhere near as good. It's okay on this turn, but you don't want to do it on this turn because that would be pretty awkward. But if you can develop the Sorcerer's Apprentice alongside it, get some board presence, I think it makes a lot of sense to do it.
Yeah, I'm okay with it. Clears off everything.
And if you can stick that Cosmic Anomaly next turn with Shooting Star being buffed by the, or being reduced in cost by the Apprentice and buffed by the Anomaly, then you can start to try and keep this board under control. But the main problem is the Mage does run out of stuff. A couple of Arcane Intellects and a Luneth. A Luneth could change this around if they get it very soon. And it's weird that I'm saying change it around when they're ahead on board, but the board just... It is a fickle thing when you're playing against Paladin.
It is very misleading in this matchup in particular. You think you're ahead as the Mage, but actually the Paladin just gets back on the board so quickly. I mean, even here, look, suddenly they're back on the board and you're struggling once again. Okay, you've got Shooting Star, you can deal with these 2 minions. Then the Paladin refills once again.
So Anomaly into Shooting Star is no longer available, which makes things really awkward. Arcane Intellect and Ping would be lovely, but that's not how numbers work either. Shooting Star and Arcane Intellect?
Either that or...
use your Shooting Stars.
Shooting Star and Runes is okay.
Yeah. What are you expecting on turn 4 to be so devastating? Turn 5, you're expecting Fungal Mancer. Great. You blew up a 2/2.
But I guess card draw isn't terrible here. Really, you want minion presence, and Explosive Runes can kind of work as some form of presence, but you're completely right. Like, what is actually going to come onto the board?
I'm wondering what the most minions they're expecting to face next turn is. So you could go for Trade and Ping, which temporarily gives up the board. And then next turn you can play the Anomaly and the Shooting Star to try and get the board back. But there is the daddy of all weapons.
It is the big dog. It does so much for this class, for this archetype. How many times have we seen aggro Mage down and out, struggling, then turn 6, no cards, suddenly a Luneth pops up, and it's game on, and they win.
Yeah. And the Paladin doesn't usually have the option to just run it out of things, because this does have a violent amount of damage when you do start drawing those cards. Obviously Cinderstorm's the big deal, but several other bits and pieces as well. Doesn't have the unexpected results or the spell damage package, which I find sad. I like that version. You play a little bit more slowly. It's far less explosive, but a lot more stable.
You could be in Dr. Boom's lab with all that vocabulary.
I think I was the other day in Copa, to be honest. There were noises going off and disturbing Derek that I was just creating. Accidentally opened Twitch chat sound, that sort of thing. It was great. Derek was having a great time.
Yeah, I'm not sure he was.
He did actually say, "Oh, you just Dr. Boom."
Yeah. And this is the thing, this is the problem now for the Mage, right, is that they are now behind. Yes, you've got Runes, you've got Frostbolt, that can answer the majority of the board already, but Wargear, how does... Yeah, the Wargear is going to be interesting with Explosive Runes, right? It just will survive. The Magnetic goes off first, as far as I'm aware. I may be wrong there. I'm completely okay to take that on the chin.
And the other thing they need to work out here for Ukraine is can they survive by just pointing stuff at face? The Paladin will get a lot of damage incredibly quickly. But if Ukraine can just point this at face over maybe 3 turns, this is a lot of damage accumulating in their hand. If they do lose the board, they will have no option but to just switch and point.
Pointing stuff at face is always risky, but I guess against Paladin you're expecting to lose the board at some point anyway.
So this looks sensible for now. And going forward, you know, they could just get it done, but their damage isn't limited by how much damage they can get. It's limited by how much mana they have between now and the end of the game.
Whew. I was holding my breath.
Yeah, he was
holding my breath
there.
But yes, quite rightly, the magnetic plays around explosive runes. That's really annoying, and you can see like the look on Czech Republic's face. Like some of them are just like having a little laugh because they probably know. I think they know that they've just dodged one.
And now the pointing face plan just won't work. You can't win a race against a 6-8 when they're going to add more and more stuff to the board. So they're back to the board control plan. It can definitely work.
Argent Squire does survive in explosive runes. However,
changes the race a bit.
It does indeed.
All 5 would go to face, I believe. Took me a while to work out how that ended up working. And I'm still not 100% on it. Divine Shields and explosive runes interact really strangely.
There are some strange interactions. I mean, that magnetic one is really cool. The fact that you can just avoid explosive runes. And like, I think the reason why Jala and the rest of the team were kind of having a little smirk about it was because they were like, well, War Gear isn't traditionally in this deck, but we've just managed to play around a secret because it is. And quite rightly, Lorinda, yes, it is just the 5 damage and taking off the Divine Shield.
Never in doubt.
But that's already the Paladin down to 18 now.
Yeah, and plus they do spell damage. If they can find their second Sorcerer's Apprentice so they can fire off a few things in one go with the anomaly on the board, that's a big deal. And not a lot here for the Czech Republic to do. We haven't commented on this. They've actually just got nothing to do this turn because of how their mana is working out. And that could give Ukraine a really big opening here. They can just dump Anomaly, Mana Worm, Frostbolt, trade away the board, and just have a fantastic Anomaly sitting there.
And the Mana Worm sitting there.
Yeah,
and then a Luneth to follow up. I mean, this is
a Luneth
really
ping
good.
To follow up.
Really, really good for Ukraine. I mean, we were saying the odd Paladin like can do well in this matchup, but this was where we said the aggro mage can work well when it finds those shooting stars. It found both of them to be able to compete with the early board.
And they weren't shy to use them.
No.
They didn't sit around waiting for, say, this sort of turn where they've got a bit more value. It's like, no, we die if we wait. We're just going to kill things and try and stick a board. And now they have an apparent chance to do it. I think one of the questions here is, can we use a Luneth? Can we use a Luneth, try and find that Sorcerer's Apprentice, be super greedy and have an absolutely amazing turn?
Is it too slow? I think is probably what they're thinking.
Is it too slow?
Because I mean, Vine Cleaver's going to be scary. Vine Cleaver, it's starting to hit you in the face. Leroy Jenkins available as a follow-up. So I like this plan of trading off. Rather than just ignoring these minions, keep the board control. The Anomaly is scary.
And you're 5 life ahead right now. 5 health ahead is a lot of health. When you've got 6 on the board, your opponent needs to trade into these to get rid of them, otherwise you are going to lose. They don't know what the other card is, which is a big deal. Having a Luneth on your side, Czech Republic will be trying to work out if that's what it is, but I don't think there's much they can do to work that out right now.
There's no way they can play around it either.
Let me think.
You just have to Vine Cleaver, you're taking out, I imagine, the Anomaly.
That's a really tough choice, but I think you have to.
Yep.
When you're leaving a Mana Worm, it means it's a tough choice, usually. And that's 4 more damage.
Oh, and that's a reason not to play a Luneth.
I think so
if I've
too.
ever seen one.
Let's do some numberizing. 3 to face, 3 from the Mana Worm, and a ping. So that's 7 to face. You put your opponent on 7.
And then you're a Luneth, and you're only looking for a fireball then.
Yeah, you've got the time to play a Luneth and wait a turn. I like 7 as a number if I'm Mage.
I like 7 as a number. It's my favourite number.
Is it?
Yep.
It's most people's favourite number.
Is that true?
Yeah.
Is that a genuine statistic?
Yeah.
Huh.
Big time ahead of 4.
I'm gonna change it. Don't want to go with the crowd, but it is hard to pass up a Luneth, so I can also understand this at the same time. You can save back that Cinderstorm. Maybe you'll get some spell damage a little bit later.
And there's the Apprentice, and now next turn could be absolutely nutty.
Yeah, this is where it gets fun for the Mage. And not so fun for Yala, sorry, but however, he does have Giggling Inventor plus Blood Knight. The Wombo combo that we've all been waiting for today.
But you're going to be the one to announce it first.
No, but I ask you, do you really want to be getting rid of the Divine Shields on your Giggling Inventor? Well, on your Renotrons? Probably in this situation,
the answer is no, but the second answer is how do you win if you don't? If you have yourself a 9-9 and your opponent's on 23, it's time to do some serious counting. You can hit at face for 8 with Vine Cleaver over the next 2 turns. 9 plus 8 is a lot of points of damage.
I think it makes sense as well.
Leroy in
because,
hand.
yes, okay, the Divine Shields are great and they will absorb damage from like a Cinderstorm, but you've also got the chance to hit the Blood Knight, just more opportunities.
So Blood Knight, Vine Cleaver and Leroy is actually lethal damage next turn. And wow. That's all I've got to say. Wow.
So
They've managed to set up lethal.
Well, I mean, you can use this Fireball and Cinderstorm and Hope.
Remember, you can also assume there's no Leroy and Hope. That's another problem here.
Scary as something.
We can see that it is, but there's 18 cards left in your opponent's deck. You do know they have a heavy hand because they played a buff on the 1/1 when they had 5 mana available. Fungal Mancer. So you know their hand is kind of awkward, so you can probably assume there's a Leroy in there chilling. Oof.
And I think Ukraine, unless this Cinderstorm
goes
3 times onto the Blood Knight, which if they play the Anomaly, they're not even going to be able to go for this play, which means they are just going to lose.
Yeah.
There is just the damage for Leroy Jenkins plus the weapon. And there was no way, unfortunately, for Narir to avoid that unless he got really lucky with the Cinderstorm. And now Czech Republic can go face, and they're going to tie this up 1-1. That's such a shame. It was looking so good for the Aggro Mage.
And that is how hard it is to beat Paladin with Aggro Mage, because a lot of things went their way. Very close game, but still didn't get it done.
Oh, and a nice group fist bump from Czech Republic as well, as they will now switch seats so someone else can pilot their deck and have their chance. But it is going to be all tied up at 1-1 in a pretty exciting game. Actually, I thought the Mage was going to get there in the end. I'm wondering, was there a more aggressive route? Cinderstorm first, with the Ascender damage with the Mana Worm, and then play a Lunith next turn? Probably not.
There was a turn where they could have put 9 to face and then get a Luneth down, miss one turn and see if they die. And then the turn after they would have drawn a lot of fireballs and stuff. But it's very hard to reconstruct.
I think they would still die from the Blood Knight anyway.
I think so.
Right, we are going to go for a short break to allow these players to have a rest, but when we come back, we'll continue the rest of this series. Welcome back, everyone, to the Hearthstone Global Games. It's Czech Republic versus Ukraine. It is the reigning champion of the Global Games versus the runner-up from last year. And it's currently 1-1, Neil. Match number 3, though, it's going to be Pokrovac and Kalento going up against each other. And it's going to be the Mage for Czech Republic. It's going to be the Hunter for Ukraine.
Yeah, and it is the Jaina / Big Spell Mage available here for Czech Republic. And that feels like it should struggle against all the Death Rattle minions available to Ukraine.
When you think of the Mage, you think of all the removal that it has, Dragon's Fury, Flame Strike, Blizzard is good stall. If you can manipulate your removal in ways like stalling with Blizzard, chunking down some minions, and then maybe playing another removal effect after the Death Rattles come, you might be okay, but it's so difficult to do.
A couple of well-timed polymorphs would be nice.
Yep.
Depending on which of the million targets you want to pick on. But the other problem is things like Dragon's Fury you can actually miss because the 5/5s are so big. Because they're 5/5s, which is big. And so it can roll a 4 from Polymorph. And that could be awkward as well. Cubes are out of sight on 6. All in all, they've got it to do. But they can definitely get it done. There's still Rexar. There's just so many tools for the Hunter.
I mean, Death Rattle Hunter is arguably one of the better decks around right now. I guess because of its versatility. It can win in multiple different scenarios, whether it be through just popping some eggs, or whether it's just the beasts being built by Rexar, or even just the cards like Katrina, like summoning big dinosaurs that are charging your opponent's face.
Bit concerned for Kalento. It's like one of those CCTVs of someone stuck in a lift.
The wallpaper's interesting, isn't it?
Yeah. So, normal 3 or 4 turns here for this matchup where you develop what you've got and hope for the best. There's a Rexar. And Kalento, his eyes opened up pretty wide when he saw that, so realizing now he can just plan for the whole game. The energy drinks and bananas being passed around, though, in the Czech Republic camp. And we know what that means.
It means things are about to get serious, Neil.
It does.
It's game time.
That's a meteor, as you can see, because it said meteor on it. Well done, me.
Whoa. And there's a Devil's Egg. You know why,
You're going to
Neil?
do what I just did.
Because it says Devil's Egg on it.
Great. We've got this down, this casting business now.
Easy. No, unfortunately, no activators for the Devil's Egg just yet. So it is a little bit risky putting it on the board because it does open itself up to a polymorph. Would require a coin from Czech Republic to do so, though.
There's also the opportunity for them to play it and hope the Czech Republic proc it for them because they're scared of it.
Ooh.
And it protects your 1-2 if they do that as well. Don't think they'll do it, but you have quite a few activators in your deck, of course, so you can play to the top of your deck. The play deads, we know what we're talking about, tail scales, all that.
Katrina was an interesting keep off the mulligan, I've got to say. It's a pretty high mana cost card to be keeping on your mulligan, but you can understand the amount of value that it provides and the difficulty that your opponent's going to have removing what comes out of it.
Yeah, I mean, how quickly can you realistically kill them here in normal games? We know that Hunter does have some crazy games, but you're probably going to turn 8 a lot of the time, and you're probably going to annoy your opponents in the meantime. So Katrina makes a lot of sense too.
What to do? What to
and
do?
In a lot of Mage games, this amount of removal would just be glorious. But in this particular Mage game, all of this is just stall mechanics, and they don't have anything to stall into, except they have so many big spells that Dragoncaller Alana could actually just be a 1-turn win condition, basically. Just set up an OTK really quickly. So pinging the egg to give themselves the option of busting it open next turn. And this is a no-go for Kalento.
Yeah, these are usually the frustrating turns, but I think when you're going up against something like a Control Mage, you're not too concerned about just taking your time, kicking back, relaxing.
There's Jaina.
Yeah.
See, I'm good at this.
That's the thing, though.
Naming the cards as I see them.
Jaina can make a difference, because 3/6 elementals that can freeze things is very concerning. Usually the Hunter still has enough to overwhelm the Mage anyway. But I mean, like, cards like Meteor, they can make a big difference if you can get a polymorph into a Meteor at some point as well. There is a way that the Mage can just, like, outvalue the Hunter, just from sheer removal.
Plenty of tough choices, even in this weird board state. They're easy choices for us, because we can see no activators, and they can assume no activators on the Czech Republic side. But what do you actually do if you do nothing else here? I think the play they're considering, the likely play is they don't do much at all. The play they're considering is to bump into the egg and play the Doomsayer and hope there's no Hunter's Mark. Which would be a bit awkward for them, the way it's going.
There is a Hunter's Mark, but there's nothing else to go alongside it. And still isn't. That's a 1 mana cost too much to be influential here. And do you think killing off a Doomsayer and just keeping this board is worth the Hunter's Mark?
7 damage this turn if you do it. You don't really want Jaina to get established and start spewing out health gain.
Kalento was, I think he worried his teammates there. You might have seen the Flame Elemental was pointed towards face. And then he started giggling because his teammates probably went, no, 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 no!
Giggling Kalento. How does that work? Mr. Destructoid, Kalento W, Mr. Destructoid.
But at least this Dragon's Fury is going to allow Pokravac to clean up this board with the ping he provided last turn. It means that he can send the 2 damage to face as well and get a guaranteed clear here, even if he hits the worst spell, which is Polymorph. he's in a good spot.
In a way, but this does clear the way for a nice, easy, relaxed, chilled Deathstalker Rexar to come down and start doing his thing.
It does, but how much do you value this hero power?
Does it get there? Let's have a think. I don't think with the current hand you have, you get there with this hero power and your eggs.
I think if Ukraine were running Charged Devil Swords, then maybe you can consider just keeping this hero power. You've got Katharina that might bring out a Charged Devil Sword, push 7 damage, and then you've got King Crush to follow up. However, they're not running Charged Devil Swords.
How much damage do you think a Mossy Horror can get in if you just whip it out? Just put it on the board.
Probably 2.
Okay. And you missed 2 damage from the ping for doing so. So let's play Rexar then.
Yep. I think it was worth considering, trying to think how much damage you're getting through, but you know that there is healing ability for the Mage. And if you go too all in on trying to kill them very quickly, you can be punished by going down that route.
And although you've given up the pingy kill, when you win with minions in this deck, you often kill your opponent by a lot more than they have. It's not like the 2s. Unless you're getting close to a victory, it's not like it matters much. So now you've got the option to start building stealth beasts, which is a real nuisance for your opponent. You can make massive stealthy beasts.
Yeah, Stealth Tundra Rhino is one of the scariest things available.
Yeah, they are
this deck.
terrifying.
And realistically, no way that Czech Republic can deal with that. They'll be okay, I think, with a stealth beast that isn't a Tundra Rhino because they can... scary. Because they can just freeze it, for example.
And even the Tundra Rhino on its own, if it's big enough, and you can make it pretty big quite often. Oh,
there it
how
is.
long do you want to wait?
There it is. Well,
Because that's
just go that one. You can just go the Giant Wasp, right?
Do it next turn.
Do it next turn.
A stealthy poisonous rhino that you probably has 7 health, probably never dies, and then you just wedge beasts in their face for the rest of the game. Until you suffer a double Blizzard Flame Strike accident, but that's a slow accident.
It is, but it is there.
Or you can just go with the Tiger. But yeah, he does go for the Stealth Beast.
Yeah, Stealth Beast, turns out they're pretty good, especially when it's a Tundra Rhino.
And we don't mind 3/4s, they're great. They challenge 3/3s. High level things here.
Oh, now you really want to coin out Lich King, but I think coining out Jaina, who has been turned into a Death Knight by the Lich King, is probably more influential next turn.
Yeah, and Geddon's going to do some work too. Although sometimes you're not quite sure, whose side is he on. Because start shooting your own face when you're pretty low like this.
But he will also be healing up once you play Frostlich Jaina next turn.
Yes, and that's when you find out whose side he's actually on. Yours.
And that makes you want to deal with this, but the way you're dealing with this is with your zombies, and you want to keep him alive.
Doesn't even deal with it. Well, it's poisonous, so I guess it does, but ugh.
Yeah, you're not. If you're playing it, you're just playing nothing, and then you're hoping to get several minions charging from then forward, but I mean, even then, like, what minions are you going to be playing that are actually going to be charging? Like, I guess the beast that you're building
can be traded in, and then you get a beast that comes from her from the death rattle, and then you can charge in with the thing.
But Katharina doesn't have charge herself, right? Because she isn't a beast. So it's about what she's pulling. King Crush is already in your hand. That already has charge anyway.
But if she doesn't die now and the High Main does, for instance, I don't see that many worlds where that happens. Well, with Geddon on the board. Yeah.
Oh, Skulking Geist does make this turn a little bit more difficult now. Naturally, you're thinking coin into Jaina, but getting rid of Playdeads is actually pretty huge. I don't think you can pass up.
Yeah.
Especially the fact you have Geddon on board.
Whenever you can make Jaina appear, gain all this health back to where you started, although that's not as relevant as sometimes as we've discussed. Oh, but things with this zombies now. So many good available trades coming in.
Yeah, this is going to start to get pretty tasty for Kalento now.
Remember that whatever dies will produce things that can charge if the Rhino is played.
So you have 2 Hyenas that can also charge. Your opponent's already at full health, so you don't mind trading off into these elementals.
I think there's only 1 High Main in the deck, so you will get a Grizzly.
A guaranteed Grizzly.
Well,
Is that the only thing
that's the wrong
left?
deck, is
oh,
this deck.
it's that. There it is. But yeah, still only 1 High Main. So it would be a Grizzly. It's a shame, really, that they drew King Crush in their opening hand.
It really is, yeah. That's made a bit of a mess of things. But even so, they're all charging, and the Czech Republic aren't going to like the price.
And it just means that now every beast that Colento builds for the next at least 2 turns is going to be able to just charge face, providing they do keep this beast stealthed, and they keep it away from any, I don't know, Blizzard into then meteoring a minion next to it shenanigans, or Blizzard into Flame Strike, I guess. It's all very scary. But Blizzard into Flame Strike doesn't even quite do it.
King Crush will be turned into King Rush.
No.
He'll still charge.
He still has charge, so if he turned into King Rush, that would be bad, because then he couldn't attack face.
That's true. But King Charge doesn't make it work, in a casting sense. Alright. You don't have any water elementals. You do have a big problem.
I mean, usually, as a control mage, your way of dealing with big problems is freezing and waiting, and then freezing again, and then playing Flame Strike, and suddenly everything's gone. However, that's not going to be good when your opponent is building 6, 7 beasts that are going to be hitting you in the face.
Yeah, Colento can just build... I mean, he may not even bother, he may just play a King Crush, but he can build 8 mana beasts with as high attack as he can find and just jam it straight into Jaina's mush.
I think you take advantage of the Builder Beast and then keep King Crush back as charge for later.
So what you could do if you're the Czech Republic is set down this terrifying course of Blizzard Flame Strike to set up Alana. I'm actually going to do it this way around.
Well,
this puts the beasts next to each other so they can do Meteor next turn. This is nice.
This opens up a Meteor to clear off. They recognise the threat.
And Colento might recognise the play here. So he might put the egg on the other side of the 3/7. Which would be fruity and spicy all at once.
Spicy fruit.
Yeah. It's like a chili pineapple pizza.
Are we going to have that discussion?
No, but Chatter.
Okay, cool.
We don't need to, they'll do it for us.
Pretty nice to pick up here, because if you are recognising that your opponent does want to just go with a Meteor, you can go very wide, because a Meteor doesn't really typically do very well in terms of mana cost with other cards.
Yeah, it's got a lot of dinosaurs to wipe out this Meteor.
Yeah, you can Devilsaur Egg, plus Terra Scale, plus Play Dead, and then suddenly you're charging for 10?
Yeah, you can put a lot of things in between the Rhino and the Bear as well, or the Panther, as Colento calls it.
The important factor is you want to leave at least 1 slot on the board, so that your opponent can't just freeze everything, and then you can't play anything, and that is exactly what Colento is doing.
And the damage is huge. There's King Crush in hand.
Now, I don't know if he had time to build a beast or whether he just got gifted one.
Build a Mukla Taunt Poisonous Battle Cry.
I feel like by the way he's laughing,
yeah.
I think he just got gifted that. But, I mean, that might just be enough to get through. I mean, you've got King Crush anyway that can deal that 8 damage. Blizzard, unfortunately, not going to keep the Czech Republic alive, and that means that the Death Rattle Hunter is going to get through, and it is going to be that King Crush providing that final oomph. As quite rightly, smiles all round from Colento. I say all round, he's on his own. It's not like Czech Republic.
Smiles all round, except there's one of them.
Except there is just him. But I'm sure his team are smiling as well and having a good old chuckle, because they're 2-1 up in this series and are only 1 game away now from winning.
And when Colento's happy, most people are happy, I think. Apart from if they're from the Czech Republic.
Yeah, I mean, that's a good generalization. But Colento has a lot of fans, obviously big streamer still. A lot of people do still follow him, and they are still, wow. I mean, why wouldn't you be? He's one of the best players around, to be fair. Like,
He still did well at Seat Story.
Exactly. Some of the stuff that I see on his stream is nuts. Anyway, what is going to be the next matchup, I hear you ask? Well, let's take a look. It's going to be Rogue versus Druid. Is that right? Yep, I've just flicked over to the wrong side of my book, sorry. It's going to be the Quest Rogue available for Czech Republic, and it's going to be the Token Druid available for Ukraine. So Ukraine opting not to go for typical Malygos, or we've seen Malygos Togwoggle, I think, that's been available as well. Instead, Token Druid. How do you feel like that's going to do against Quest Rogue?
It's interesting because Token Druid tends not to be regarded as an aggressive deck. It tends to just chill and sort of slowly grind it up. That's because that's the environment in which it is living. It's living in a place where actually it kind of has to go slow and set up this Whispering Woods into Soul of the Forest nonsense. But it is capable of just going, here's a Whispering Woods, and what are you going to do, Quest Rogue? Because next time I'm going to Savage Roar you, or just do it the quick way, the old-fashioned way. The whole reason you need the package of Soul of the Forest is because there's so much AoE around because of things like Paladin.
And what the Quest Rogue does really well, usually against aggro decks, is the ability to, I don't know, like freeze a couple of minions.
Great.
Because a lot of aggro decks, they don't go particularly wide, but they just build up a board on tempo, whereas this, they're going to go so wide with, what, 7 1/1s? Okay, great, you can freeze 2 1/1s, but then suddenly a Savage Roar is just going to put you to bed.
Yeah.
So the Quest Rogue might struggle here, and if it does, that means Czech Republic would fall to Ukraine. And reminder, this is a grudge match. Ukraine did come second in last year's Global Games. Czech Republic came first. So Ukraine, they're seeking out just a little bit of revenge now.
Yep, nothing absurd or unusual in this Rogue deck. Obviously, the Vanishers are a big deal against Whispering Woods, but that's if the Druid doesn't have any ramp. Otherwise, you've got 6 mana for that card.
It's not as bad as Living Mana, for example.
Ooh.
Vanish onto Living Mana was just destructive back
naughty.
in the day, and that's how Quest Rogue just dominated Token Druid. But now Living Mana out of the equation, you don't really mind if they're just giving you back 1/1s, because you can play another Whispering Woods afterwards because you have a full hand. So I think you're okay.
The Rogue has Giggling Inventors these days, I
Yes,
believe.
it does.
Yes, it does, and that's about it.
That's
but
what
so
made-
does the Druid if it wants them.
Giggling Inventor is what has given Quest Rogue this kind of resurgence, though. It's given this new spark of life. I mean, Quest Rogue has been nerfed twice, I'd like to remind you, which is just crazy, or at least the quest has been nerfed twice. But even just as 4/4s now, and you have to play 5 minions, it's still incredibly strong, especially in this meta. I mean, I think someone experimented with it and suddenly they probably hit rank 1 legend, like several people have, and everyone realized, oh, Quest Rogue actually really works in this current meta, but maybe not against some of these more aggressive decks.
Doesn't Tyler have to eat his shoe or something?
I'm sure a lot of people have said, if Quest Rogue comes back for the 3rd time, I will do X things.
Get your YouTube videos out, we'll get them all together.
Try and find out.
But don't do anything that might hurt you.
No, definitely not.
Play it safe, eat softer shoes.
Soft shoes are advisable. And we did have a poll, I believe. On the community show yesterday, we asked everyone to vote for who they thought were going to win between Czech Republic and Ukraine. And if production want to chuck that up on the screen at any point, because I am intrigued as to who people thought were going to be winning this one.
I can remember.
You can remember?
I can't remember the percentages, but I know who was there. Yeah.
Well, there you are.
Because Ukraine is easier to spell.
Chat thought that Ukraine were going to win yesterday, but maybe it is because Ukraine's just easier to type into Twitch.
So it's probably
chat.
50-50, I'd like to call that.
Yeah, it's roughly even. And, I mean, it is hard to separate these teams. There are such magnificent players involved. But it is now going to be Insane's chance to win this series and get just this smidge of revenge against Czech Republic.
Let's see if we can get that smidge going. Just going to double-check this list. Okay, all is in order. Gaskin's telling the truth. But there's no wild growth in hand, which is always a bit irritating. And there is a Sonya in hand, and that is a way to get rid of a lot of wisps in one go if you can draw your ball.
Yeah, but
It's slow and it's late. But,
yeah,
you know.
you need the mana for it. And I feel like sometimes Sonya is needed just to regain some health against aggro decks. Combining that with the Scale Hide, of course, is one way of keeping in a match.
No wild growth, so more cards needed. And still no wild growth, but plenty of things to do with your Violet Teacher while you're waiting.
But all the bounce backs available for Finland and the rest of Czech Republic here. They just need something to actually bounce back. And an interesting thing I've found whilst playing Quest Rogue quite recently is that I know you in particular, Neil, used to say to me, you don't really want to complete the quest with Novice Engineer.
Sure,
because
it takes twice as long.
Because it costs twice as much and it's more difficult. I've found that the games I've won have usually been because I've completed it with Novice Engineer and having that just extra little bit of draw potential. Because Quest Rogue, before the nerfs, everything being 5/5s, you had the ability to win games in one turn because you were rushing for 5 and you could push that damage. Now they're 4/4s, you don't have that same burst potential, it's not quite there. So sometimes having your hand full of things to play turn after turn is actually a good thing.
I must admit I haven't seen a huge amount of post-nerf Quest Rogue, but I have seen it complete with Novice Engineer far more than in the past. I must doff my cap to you, young man.
thank you, old man, I guess, is my only logical response to that, Neil.
So Ukraine do want to put some pressure on here, but this Power of the Wild looks like it's just too good with Violet Teacher. So despite hovering over it while he asked his team the question, like so many players seem to do, that's definitely a recurring theme, did indeed end up just passing it back.
And I think the mistake you can sometimes make as aggro decks, I say with Darroch famously uses air quotes.
Whilst off camera.
Whilst off camera that no one can see. You do just kind of fall into this trap of, I need to play things, I need to be aggressive and have stuff on the board. But actually, if you're patient, you can just go wide enough that it essentially does the same thing.
Yeah, you need a monster board on turn 5, well, not turn 6 because Vanish, but you know what I mean. You set it up around that area and kill them in one go, or basically kill them in one go.
Not the best prep into Mimic Pod I've ever seen in terms of kind of completing the quest. However, Giggling Inventory is going to be a fantastic stall mechanic against a token-based deck.
Yeah, definitely going to slow things down nicely. I mean, they don't have anything to actually do right now, but all these gigglings.
I mean, there is
laughing at the end.
There is a world where you are forced to complete it with Annoyatrons.
Yeah, you're going to say that, aren't you?
I mean, obviously you don't get the quest. The quest isn't activated when you play the Giggling Inventor, but if you bounce back the Annoyatron and then suddenly you're playing it over and over again, that is getting a little bit scary.
Just do it with 5 Giggling Inventors. Just for style points.
You could do that. It's tricky.
It is, because your board just gets stuck with Annoyatrons. Your opponent's eventually goes, you know, they're only 1/2, just leave them there till we're ready.
But the longer this goes on in the hand, the more this hand kind of takes shape, I am kind of thinking that maybe an Annoyatron plan is feasible.
Things just got messy, though, because now there's the brew plan. But it's not going to work, because the Violet Teacher will just eat them up. But you do have ways of getting quite a few brews in very little time here.
Drink with me, friend.
Yeah, it looks like they are going to go down that route. They feel like they have to take the initiative now and start doing something, because otherwise they will just fall too far behind. The fact that they've got the Giggling Inventors to start defending things and making sure they don't just lose on the spot is also a fantastic scenario to be in. Double Violet Teacher, though.
Yeah, that can make things happen in a hurry next turn.
Pay attention, class.
See how they're lacking that mana, though? Cheeky wild growth along the way would have made this so amazing for them. Oh, you've got Sonya and the pig as well. Sounds like a really bad children's TV show.
It probably is a children's TV show, to be fair. But now for Czech Republic, they want to play this Giggling Inventor because naturally you want to defend yourself in this situation. It is pretty scary when you're just facing 6 damage, but at the same time, you're not getting towards your quest by doing so. You could bounce back one of your Gigglings with the 0 mana Brewmaster and just presume it's going to survive, and then you can play your one next turn, but I think you're in a safe enough spot where you can assume your Giggling Inventor is going to survive anyway because of the 2 Annoyatrons, so you can probably be patient.
Yeah, and again, looking at Sonya and the pig going forwards, that's another way of completing, depending how long the game takes. Looking at swipe options here, because it will generate 2 more 1/1s, and then Soul of the Forest becomes an immediate threat that must be dealt with.
It also does stop the bounce back possibilities as well of just getting too many Giggling Inventors.
So brew.
I feel like I'm in a weird sense of deja vu. Back to like last year, where I remember a team trying to go down the Brewmaster line and it just failing miserably.
I mean, it's going to get the quest done.
It is, yeah. But is it too slow?
It could well be too slow. Because even, this is where things have differed a little bit. It's very hard for the Rogue to have this wide board going into the turn where they play the Caverns Below now. You used to have these, like originally, before it was nerfed 100 times. You just have these wide boards and you make them all 5/5s the next turn. But that's not going to happen here. You've still got to find time to play the Crystal Core.
I mean, the prep helps. You've got that 1/4/4 on the board. And I guess giggling into 3 4/4s, 2 of them with Divine Shield, is going to be really nice.
So Sonya's Stone Tusk is the way out of this. It's the way where they do turn it around massively.
But the Stone Tusks have to die.
Exactly. That's where I was going with that
Yeah.
next.
Well, I
So-
apologise for cutting you off, Neil.
That's fine. I like it when you cut me off because it means that you can do the talking. I can sit and watch Hearthstone.
Well, we both like doing that.
But it just means the power of the wild could end up being pretty bad.
Yeah, if you're buffing up these minions, and actually that goes against you, and Ukraine should recognise that.
But if you go Whispering Woods, Power of the Wild, hit you in the face, or Soul of the Forest, Power of the Wild, hit you in the face, are there enough 4/4s and mana in the world to actually get rid of everything, and then you don't die next turn? They have no health gain in hand, but obviously Ukraine don't know that. It's a big deal. The whole "they don't know that" thing is always worth remembering.
I'm just still scared about these Giggling Inventors. And we were saying, is it too slow with the Brewmasters? But I think if they didn't have a Giggling Inventor in hand right now, this could get ugly. But Giggling is going to be extremely difficult to deal with.
It's getting pretty ugly. Somebody make the call. Okay.
Oh, Vicious Scalehide's really nice to pick up.
Yeah.
You are going to need that life steal. In theory, you could go down that plan that you were talking about, Neil. You could go Sonya Shadow Dancer, but you could play the Scalehide instead. Start trading into these 2 Violet Teachers. That gives you 16 extra health.
Well, you can't die though. You can't kill it.
Why? You just kill it on the Violet Teacher.
Sure. Okay, twice.
Yeah, so 4 times in total.
Okay, that's a lot.
Of course, it only costs 1 mana when
Yeah,
it goes
because it
back to
doesn't.
your hand.
Yeah. I'm good. I'm with it now because it's Violet.
So you can only
Teacher
do-
doesn't die. Is 16 enough?
You can only do
It is.
3.
We can see it is.
You can only do 3, of course, because the first one still costs 2. But I think it's too hard to pass up Giggling Inventor.
This is all a bit silly.
Now Savage Roar suddenly gets pretty scary. But alas, it is not there.
It isn't, and that's going to make things incredibly awkward now for Ukraine. They have to assume they're going to draw buff very soon. That's kind of what the deck's supposed to do. So
It does mean the Czech Republic have given up the possibility of endless scale hides for now. But I think they were just very concerned about possible lethal this turn for Ukraine.
yep.
Yeah, you're 100% killing off the scale hide. Probably the Panda as well.
I mean, you've come this far. Guess it depends. Yeah.
Unfortunately, there's no way to open up 2 spots on the board if you wanted to play Malfurion for spiders, for example.
I think you might still do it anyway, though, just to get the hero power rolling and rumbling into the face as well.
For sure,
It's
that
a good
3
way to get a lot of
damage.
attack.
3 damage is going to be really important.
Yeah.
But Brewmaster bouncing back this Giggling Inventor is also pretty scary.
It really is. But I think as soon as Ukraine pick up a buff, unless things change rapidly, which they can with this hand that Findan has, it will end very quickly if Insane just picks up Branching Path, Savage Roar.
Come, try your luck.
Well, not going to bounce back the Giggling.
Well, kind of.
Yeah,
That seems fair.
it's instead of doing it with the Brewmaster, they do it with Sonya. Seems more effective.
And it's piggy time.
Is it a pig?
Yeah. You ever heard that famous phrase, pig control?
Is a boar a pig? Is it a type of pig? Got to say, my animal knowledge is not great.
We're not good on the animal things, actually, when we go down this route.
No, we're not.
Because there might be a hog.
You know what we could do? Stop.
No.
No, okay.
You can't make me do that.
You've come this far.
Sometimes you just have to go with it.
But imagine this deck without Giggling Inventor right now.
Why would I do that?
Because it shows the power of Giggling Inventor and how it's
It
just
is.
given Quest Rogue this lift that it needed.
It's been absolutely absurd in this game and in many ladder games as well.
And I don't think there's a world where Ukraine can afford to kind of trade in, play Spreading Plague and hope to outlast their opponent. The value is going to be too much with constant 4/4s arriving.
How are they going to get rid of this Sonya?
I mean, they can't.
Well, that's awkward.
My thoughts are
I can
They could nourish and look for
Savage Roar.
Spellstone. Nourish spells. If Nourish finds Spellstone,
Okay,
armor up.
that'd work. And it sounds like they're desperate enough to do it. Because if they do get rid of the Sonya,
death is eternal.
their hand is actually pretty decent for at least one more go at this. Although obviously, Ukraine are about to start playing Elven Minstrels and Novice Engineers and rifling through their deck really quickly.
But Ukraine are going to go down the stalling mechanic and say, we still want one of our buffs. We want something like a Savage Roar. It means that this boar is difficult to kill off, but I think it can be done.
Yeah, the UI is now active next turn. That's always nice. Which means that they do have a turn where they can maybe get some stuff going, but this board is about to vanish. Except Vanish isn't going to be played. It's just going to be killing all your stuff organically.
Drink with me,
Oh,
friend.
and it just goes from bad to worse.
Make it stop!
All right, Neil, I'm going to ask you a very serious question.
Oh no.
From this point, who do you think wins this game?
So one player has the best card that everyone complains about in Hearthstone, and the other has Ultimate Infestation.
I thought you were going to say the other way around,
That was
actually.
the point. Damn it.
But I'm not sure even Ultimate Infestation can save you now. You have to get rid of Sonya. You cannot leave her alive. She's done so much damage already.
Yeah, it's just insane. Well, it is
Haven't you-
insane. That's not even, that wasn't even deliberate this time.
You are following up with some cheap 4/4s of your own.
If Czech Republic's hand didn't say draw a card, draw 2 cards, draw 2 cards, 3 pig damage, I would think that maybe this game was close. But it does say that.
I mean, even with just what's on board right now, like 24, 25 available, Stone Tusk 4.
Hell,
I can't tell at this point, Lorinda, if you're laughing or crying.
I'm not sure myself.
Sounds like a little bit
anymore.
of both.
Yeah, it's just like wheezing terrifiedly.
And maybe, just maybe, if Ukraine had found something like a Savage Roar a little bit earlier, there was potential
Yeah,
that they could have found lethal.
A wild growth a little bit earlier is
Well,
probably the card that cost them.
But by the way this is going, and the amount of board control that Czech Republic now have because of these giggling inventors, these what it would seem like endless giggling inventors, they are cruising towards victory and cruising towards tying the series up, which will take us to a game 5.
It will indeed. As this is like 2 or 3 years ago when GVG was at its height. If you told people that the future was 4/4 Annoyatron,
Too soon.
what would they have told
They
you?
would have
It would have
deleted
sworn a little
Hearthstone.
bit.
Because our Noitrons ruined our days back then. And they're starting to do it all over again. Spreading Plague is another delaying tactic for Ukraine. They've got Spreading Plague, they've got Soul of the Forest. This is the thing, like, even though Czech Republic are so far ahead, it's not over for Ukraine because they still have that ability of just stalling and waiting, and maybe they get that one turn of full tokens, they Savage Roar, they clear Czech Republic's board, and then suddenly Czech Republic don't have those giggling inventors. Suddenly they can only play a few minions.
You can only play 7 anyway.
I know that I am really clutching
No,
at
I
straws
like this
here.
straw clutching, because when I do that with Derek, he just goes, no, not having it. It's all over. And he's always right.
And you can do that to me.
I'm not going to, though, because
That is very well
I like
truly
the way
your
you
job.
think. No, my job is to sit here and talk about dinosaurs.
Death is eternal. My turn
Well,
is
be my guest, Neil.
So, you got any facts on these teams, by the way?
I do have a couple of facts. I think between this, between games 4 and 5, I'll give you a couple.
So you are implying this is over after all then?
Oh, you
Got
got,
him.
me there.
We got him.
Game 7 match Lorinda. Maybe Finden makes a mistake, vanishes everything.
Oh,
Actually, a Vanish would probably be good for him. He's actually, yeah. I mean, you can Vanish everything back, and then you get your Gigglings back. Plus some Annoyatrons. It's actually, I mean, I joked about it, but it's actually
1, 2,
pretty
3,
good.
4, 5, 6. So what do you get back? Gigglings were first down, right?
I believe so.
Oh, that's just terrifying. And all those Scarabs. It's going to scuttle off and not come back. And the music is just summing it up right now, I think. It's like one of the more chirpy, fiesta sort of musics.
Yeah, and you love hearing that music when you're winning.
Yeah, when you're losing, you just turn off the music.
Choose soon.
Yep, he is actually going to go with the Gaskin joke. And, oh, hurts. It's just terrifying. Insane's eyes have like glazed over at some point in the last 2 or 3 turns. He was all bright-eyed and bushy-tailed. Now it's just like, what's
This is
happening?
my chance. I can get this series for us guys. And then
Now it's
suddenly
just make it stop,
the
eyes.
pandas are arriving on the board, and he's like, what's happening? The quest is being completed, but it's okay. I might find Savage Roar. And then the Giggling Inventors ruin the day.
He's not done a very good job of finding buffs, has he? And we are joking a bit here, but there is the Whispering Woods into Soul of the Forest into you lose because your opponent just kills you until you die from it. But this Scarab Beetle is going to try and save the day. You can do it, Beetle!
Can I do a Darok and say, no, you can't, Mr. Beetle? It was looking all good when you were played for 6 mana and you had all your buddies, but now just for 2 mana, they're not looking so great.
Death is eternal. My turn is
And I don't know if stalling is going to be enough for Ukraine.
Well, they're trying to get a situation where they play the Whispering Woods behind the Beetles.
They're trying to get a situation where, like, they find Savage Roar and it can actually
Right.
do something.
Because if they do somehow get to do that once in the world where Czech
No.
Republic haven't got a Scale Hide in hand,
You can just bounce back giggling again. Make it stop.
it won't. It won't stop. It doesn't stop. The deck builders are too fiendish. They've made it so it never stops.
And if you want, I mean, you can play your boar here if you want to just get rid of 1/1s if you're scared of them. I think Giggling Inventor is too good to pass up, but
That's it. I'm calling Chucky.
it's not his fault. I've said this.
It's not a fault. It's just a thing that's happening.
I don't believe that he worked on this expansion. I can't confirm or deny that, by the way. That is just my presumptions. Just going to put that out there.
Yeah, they're usually a year or so ahead with the design.
exciting,
Again,
right?
that's my understanding, not anything that I know. Oh, hello. Hello. This game's going to break me, I think. This particular game.
Oh,
path.
now you show up, Savage Roar.
Well done. Now you got lethal, except for the fact that there's 100 Annoyatrons in the way.
Well, 100 Annoyatrons can be met by 100 Spreading Plagues.
They
and
can.
Beetles, Neil.
And they haven't been vanished for a while. Sonia's gone. Everything else is still there. All right, so it is Plague time. It is going to be Soul of the Forest. On top of that, he's going to set up a Savage Roar, maybe with another buff top deck next turn.
I mean, maybe. I'm still hopeful.
Is Insane playing outside, by the way, like in the dark?
That would be insane.
That's him.
No, I think he's just playing in a very dark room. You can see the border of his bedroom,
Yeah.
I believe. No stars. Except himself.
And Calento. And Navier. And Old Boy.
Old Boy's a legend, by the way. I spent a lot of time with him in China
Oh, yeah.
for the Gold Series last year.
I wonder.
Always been very helpful when I've been around him, I must admit.
Yeah. I mean, the Hearthstone community, I've got to say, in terms of pro players, like, they are a wonderful bunch.
Yeah.
I have been a commentator for several different esports, and I've got to say the Hearthstone players are so friendly.
And they're always helpful. They're understanding that, hey, we could do with a bit of advice on this or that particular matchup. And then, at least to your face, they never turn and go, he doesn't know that matchup.
Caster nerds.
Always a lot of help from pretty much every pro that when I've ever needed it.
All right,
Not
well,
that I need much help because I'm so good.
finally, we can see something with Savage Roar and Swipe now. Is there a
enough?
potential that they can just burst through?
We should probably be adding it up.
Imagine if there was branching paths as well.
How much do they need to do? They need to do 25 plus 10. That's 35. How much can they do?
27, 30 with their hero power,
And
and
some
they
gets
have
wasted.
a swipe. This might be here.
A little bit gets wasted. But can they lose on the reswing if they do it? I'm not sure they can. So if they do go for it, they've got to make sure if they haven't got it, they don't die on the reswing. The swipe does an extra 3 to what I was saying, but it doesn't help apart from...
I think they're like 4 off, or 3 off.
Death
Maybe even
is
it's
eternal.
so close.
My turn is not.
They would have calculated whether this was lethal, and the fact that they're not already doing it is. And I can't count lethal here.
They're not actually killing off the Scale Hide this way. They are going to kill it off. They get 1 more damage through this way. They were going to swipe and they realised they could face tank it instead, I think. Scale Hide needs to be dead.
Scale Hide is not dead though.
Okay.
But
Well, there's no
bounce back.
Sonya, there's no bounce back. They might be okay. Right, get through that lot. Well,
One of the things is, so you can.
Giggling Inventor. Don't forget Ultimate
Giggling
Infestation
Inventor.
to face next turn.
Yeah, but you're going to go back up to 8 because of this Scale Hide.
Mm-hmm.
So there is another swipe left, I believe, unless I am mistaken, which I may well be because my head has been all over the place with this game. The fact that Insane is still in this is crazy. This was the one power turn they've been looking for so long, that Savage Roar. We said right at the start, they need that Savage Roar to get that one swing.
How nuts is it? They're down to 7 cards in their deck before getting their buffs.
And it didn't look like it was going to happen. It looked like Czech Republic were just so safe.
Well, they've not played a branching path yet, right?
Nope.
So there's 2 branching paths and a swipe in the bottom 7, and it's still nearly been enough already, without getting a wild growth on 2.
And a Savage Roar, also down there as well.
Yeah.
Choose soon.
And cycling a wild growth if they get the other one, which is probably fine. They can point UI at face. Go away!
But this is now really scary for Czech Republic.
Good job that it was nerfed, because if these were 5/5s, this game would be absolutely
over.
disastrous.
Neil and I both take a moment of silence, just to have a little count.
My instinct is it's lethal, because I think you get 6 through from the minions and 3 from your face, but I'm not going to nail my colours to that. There's 6 minions have to trade in. So actually you only get 1 minion's worth through, or 2 minions but not your face. You can't do both.
But if you have the ability to push any damage to face now, surely you take it, because you have the backup of Ultimate Infestation next turn. And you've just seen the final Scale Hide disappear, I believe.
You can be dead on the reswing though, because if you do it that way, you end up losing all of your taunts but 1. All but 2 if you do it the other way, actually. So they need to calculate how this works.
Death is eternal.
And they're
Yeah,
going to wait
but
till the next turn, and then they're going to force it through because the board state's not going to change.
Well,
it
either
hugely.
that, or they are searching for their potential swipe.
Mhm.
So setting up for that swipe, keeping those taunts in the way to stop lethal available for Czech Republic.
I'm almost out of cards.
And that's if I am correct. Maybe there isn't a second swipe. If it is, it's the last card.
But next turn, if they can force through similar stuff to last turn, it's different. Because now they haven't got to worry about the reswing because they just kill them.
Ukraine already used a swipe, as far as I'm aware. Actually, I'm just thinking back to one of the
It's
original
fine.
turns when they killed off Giggling Inventor.
Because the math is the same next turn as it is this turn, except maybe when the 4/1s die, they can be replaced with Glacial Shards. So the math is the same, but this time you don't have to worry about reswing because you get the 3 through and you kill them. And they can't reswing at you if you've killed them. But things are going to die, which is going to allow spaces for the Glacial Shards to appear.
And if you want Zola onto Giggling,
Oh,
are you okay?
no.
But Zola does take up a spot, but then it does still allow you to play that.
If there is no more Annoyatrons and the board is full at the end of the turn, then there is enough to get through. If any minion gets through, it's the game. So they've got to kill absolutely everything and the hero power. So they've got to freeze some stuff. And they only have the Zola, but there's nowhere to put the thing you Zolify. So here's another Annoyatron, so you've got to get through 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 minions have one left over for face, and with a Spellstone lurking there somewhere.
Yeah, they just burnt one.
You will have... You've got 5 attacks, there's 5 things you've got to get through. Spellstone reduces that number of things you've got to get through by 1. Which means you have 5 attacks and 4 things you have to get through, which means they will get lethal unless I'm even a crazier old man than I thought I was.
Looks to me like Ukraine are calculating this one up, and they have found their way through as well. Yep, and by trading in with the face first, somehow, Ukraine have won this game. We didn't count them out too much, Neil. There were at least, we were saying, well, there is still a hope.
We did think it was over, yeah.
They clutched onto it. They kept going. They kept searching for that one turn of building up an incredibly large board. Savage Roar was able to do enough.
So it's time for your facts between games 4 and 5 then.
Ukraine has
Maybe
the
next week.
3rd biggest McDonald's in the world. It's in Kiev. There you go.
Cool.
That's the fact I'll give for you because Ukraine were the winners. But wow, I mean, what a game. I mean, it was all over the place. It was back and forth. It looked like it was going to be the Quest Rogue, and then suddenly we get back into it with the Token Druid. But let's have a look at all of the matches that were, all of the games, sorry, that were played in this series. Whew, wow.
So the Paladins got it done the old-fashioned way by being Paladins against fairly hard-to-react decks, although the Mage from Nevea got pretty close for a while there. The Hunter deck match was pretty interesting, but it wasn't because they just built a stealthy Rhino and then smashed everything else into the face. And then that last game, it looked for all the world like the Czech Republic had turned it around, but then Insane found a way. I mean, he was full of options. He had 8 cards left and he needed to get a buff, so had a chance. And because the scale highs were used up earlier on, the Czech Republic just ran out of ways to stay alive.
Yeah, and I mean, they had that opportunity at one point to Sonya into Scalehide and start getting more health, but they went for board control. I can't think whether there was anything wrong from the other side. I think that was just a fantastically played game from Insane. I mean, it quite literally was an insane game that he was able to find that victory, and I'm sure he and the rest of the Ukraine team will be absolutely delighted. I know we were back and forth. I was there for a little bit. I was like, nah, this can happen, and then I gave up hope. I gave up hope, and I shouldn't have given up hope. It was wrong of me. I should have always believed in my team, Ukraine, who now are 4-0, and I believe that has me still firmly at the top of the leaderboards for the caster prediction.
I thought he was going to say it has them going through to the second phase, but yeah.
Nope, still has me. But yes, we imagine that should be enough to go through to the second phase as well. As we take back a look at some of these highlights from a very entertaining series. And the champions, the reigning champions, they fall.
Yeah, it's been a hard team to beat, but Ukraine, the reigning runners-up, fittingly are the first team to beat them in 2018's edition of the Hearthstone Global Games.
And some decent matches for Ukraine, though. Of course, coming into the deck selection phase, I think they would have been very happy with how that went about after the ban phase to give them some quite favourable matches. But credit to Czech Republic. I mean, they kept themselves in it. This Paladin game was a fun one. And they all had the fist bumps all round as well to try and generate a little bit of excitement within the team.
Yeah, and I think that helps quite a lot when you do the fist bump thing.
Yeah, and then there was bananas as well thrown out.
Yeah, energy drinks.
Energy drinks, it was all there, but unfortunately it couldn't get them through.
Findan even raised a glass to us at some point on the webcam as if to say cheers.
Oh, really?
I think he was nice to us all as well.
I mean, this game did look won.
It did. This was interesting, though, where they chose to, over 2 turns, go for more mana so they could definitely deal with the Sonya. At some point around here, at least. I think that made a big deal. You know, the Sonya survives one more turn, and that game just turns into an absolute mess. Well, it was an absolute mess, but more of a mess.
Yeah, I think the fact that killing off Sonya was extremely important.
And they couldn't do it, so they had to plan it over 2 turns.
Both those Spellstones were in the bottom, what, 4 of their cards?
It was
something
a peculiar
ridiculous
setup of deck.
But
really
double Savage Roar in the bottom 8, double Branching Paths in the double 8, like, all of the cards you need to win this are all down at the bottom.
And they still got it done. So when you're saying it's a favoured matchup, okay, I don't think the Czech Republic could have done much different, but
I mean,
there were options with the Sonya to do other things.
We were saying we thought Token Druid was going to be able to get through from the get-go, but then it was just looking so bad for them. But we can have a chat to Naria. I believe he is going to be on the line with us. That's a pretty exciting series for you guys as Ukraine, but it was looking a bit dicey at the end. Were you still confident you'd be able to get through, having Spreading Plague in hand?
Oh,
Can you hear me?
I don't know, but yeah.
yeah.
Hello.
Hello, yeah, cool, we can hear you as well. Perfect.
Yeah. We did misplay that game, so we were a bit of on a tilt in a way. After we didn't kill Giglin on the turn when we killed the Scalehide instead.
Mm-hmm.
So like any vanish, and we would probably lose the game on the spot. So it was pretty dicey, but the matchup is favored for us, so it turned out as expected before the game.
Communication's pretty hard in this event. We ask about it a lot, but how hard is communication in a game as messy as that one was?
In this series, it was pretty messy. In the series before, we managed pretty well. We did 2 crucial misplays that we could have gotten punished for, and in the last one was against the Quest Rogue that we didn't kill the Giggly Inventor, but unfortunately we didn't get punished. I mean, in a way, as a result. And the first one, the first game, Paladin against Hunter, we put Divine Shields on all minions, and we couldn't play Red Leader.
Yes, we spotted that one and we were a little bit concerned, but the Blessing of Might was able to get through in the end. You did get your revenge. I mean, Ukraine, you fell to the Czech Republic last year in the global games. What does it mean to the team to be able to overturn Czech Republic in this season's global games and be one of the first teams to get to 4-0?
If you didn't know, as a caster, we won against Czech Republic in the groups last year too.
Yeah, but I mean, like, getting your revenge right now is what I'm saying from last year.
So it's 2-1 score in a way.
Okay, you're ahead. So this is a good situation for Ukraine. But I mean, being 4-0 is fantastic, right? Like, the team must be so happy with that.
Yeah. We basically got through to the top 16. Now it's just relaxed time.
You can kick back, you can relax, you can scout out other people. Congratulations once again, Nuria. Best of luck in the rest of your games. Thank you. He tried, didn't he?
You went there and that was your fault.
Well, I mean, what's wrong with what I said?
I mean, they're 2-1 ahead.
Yeah, but I mean, they got their revenge from the final.
Of
Did
course,
they not?
I knew what you meant, but also he was going to go with, well, we're better than them because we won twice.
Darn you, Nuria. That's his revenge for me beating him on ladder, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's been waiting for that moment.
I've mentioned it again. But, I mean, what an amazing moment that is for Ukraine, going 4-0 up and beating the previous champions. Let's take a look at all of the results then from the entirety of today. We had some incredible ones indeed. We started off with Sweden taking down Finland 3-0, which eliminated Finland from the competition. Also, Hungary were taken down, which also took them out of the competition. South Korea, they were able to take down Germany, which puts them at 3-1, but Germany are still alive. Italy and Netherlands the same. Italy now at 2-2, Netherlands at 3-1. And then, of course, the matchup we just had, that's Czech Republic at 3-1 and Ukraine at 4-0.
Yeah, a load of amazing games there. And Chat even got to 309 in one of them, which is, I think that's a world record for Chat in any esport.
Very impressive to see Chat get that far whilst counting during the Odd Warrior Mirror. Also, off-stream, we had a couple of important matches as well. Most notably, we saw Austria eliminated from the Global Games. We saw Israel eliminated as well, following with Slovakia, the final team who were eliminated today. So a lot of teams sent home, as it were, as far home as you can go when you're playing online.
Yeah, and Israel, a big one really, because last year Glazer, I'd like to say, I don't want to say carried them, but was definitely a strong leader for that team last year. I think this year they had a more rounded team with Glazer still at the fore, and to see them go out this early, quite a big surprise to me.
So it's the first day of new decks, as it were. We'll have this discussion in a second. First, let's have a look at the standings and see where everyone is sitting right about now. As I said, Ukraine, first team to reach 4-0, but there are a few teams waiting to join them. Brazil, China, Spain, Taiwan, all have the potential to get there as well.
Yeah, and as it's Swiss, I imagine that 2 of them will and 2 of them won't.
Funny that.
That's how that kind of works out.
But look how stacked some of these other brackets are in the Swiss. I mean, at 2-2, you've got Sweden there, Belgium also, Canada. So many incredible teams. But there are teams that have yet to play. What?
Mention 6th place or we get told off Poland.
Oh, Poland are in 6th place as well. That's really good. And I'm glad that Poland are doing so successfully in the global games.
Well
but,
done.
I mean, seriously, it is
good to see.
Pretty impressive that Poland are doing this well. And you can see that teams are yet to play. Of course, there are 2 more days of the global games left this week, and we will see teams like the United Kingdom, the USA, also being able to take their go at trying to get a little bit further in this competition. Neil, before I do ask you my final question, which I really want to ask you, I'm desperate to ask you, we're going to look at what fixtures we've got tomorrow for you on the global games, because that's going to be exciting as well.
Let's find out which of those 3-0 teams are going to go up there to join Ukraine. China versus Taiwan, Romania, Switzerland gets the RDU, see if you can keep that continuing good results. USA and Kazakhstan, will the USA get eliminated? Norway, my pick, taking on Chile. Norway 2-1. After a ropey start, they're looking pretty good now. And Brazil versus Spain, for me, the last one again. I'm not just saying this to keep you watching either, but I think that is the match of the day tomorrow.
I mean, the fact that one of those teams can go 4-0 and join Ukraine is certainly something to stick around and wait for.
Right, time to go.
What I've been waiting to ask you is, this is the first day of the new Boomsday meta in the global games. How do you feel it went? Are these the decks that you were expecting coming into this?
I think they are for now. I do think it will evolve further, even though ladder meta is more stable than you'd expect after a new release. I think there's a few cards yet people haven't either had the time or the bravery to mess around with properly. I'd really like to see a bit more of the Muzzy Paladin, and I think Falcone jumped in and said he'd like to add his weight behind that argument too, particularly in this sort of mid-rangey, slowish meta.
Or maybe we'll see it come into play later in the global games. Maybe next week people might start bringing some even more experimental decks, but we've seen some amazing games today. It's been an incredible one, but of course that is not all for the global games this week. We are back tomorrow. We're also back technically Thursday, technically Friday, depending on where you are living. Of course, you can check for all of the time zones. I believe all of that is available on Twitter. We tweet it out each day. But for today, that's us all done. So from myself, from Lorinda, Darrock, Falcone, all of production, have a wonderful evening or afternoon, wherever you might be in the world. And we will see you tomorrow for some more global games action. Take care.